The sun had barely risen over the gleaming skyscrapers of New York City, casting a golden hue on the glass facades of Technova. Inside the building, the air buzzed with the energy of ambition and innovation. But for Samantha Walker, it was just another day as the new cleaner. Clad in her blue uniform, she pushed her cart through the polished halls. A simple existence juxtaposed against the high-powered world around her. To the employees bustling about in their crisp suits, Samantha was just a shadow, an invisible worker whose presence was barely acknowledged. They rushed past her, their eyes glued to their phones or locked in deep conversations about the latest tech deal. No one spared a second glance at the woman diligently sweeping the floor or wiping down surfaces. A mere cog in the machine of corporate success. But little did they know, Samantha was far from ordinary. As she moved quietly through the hallways, her sharp eyes absorbed everything: the hurried whispers in the boardroom, the laughter that erupted from the break room, the scornful remarks that echoed down the corridors. It was her first week at Technova, and she had taken on this role not just as a cleaner, but as a spy, cloaked in the guise of anonymity. The real power in this building rested on her shoulders. Yet she wore the mask of the overlooked. Today, as she swept the polished floors near the corner office, she caught a glimpse of Jeff Lawson, the chief operating officer, striding towards her, tall and impeccably dressed. He moved with an arrogance that commanded attention. Samantha had observed him over the past few days, noting how he treated everyone below him with disdain. He seemed to thrive on belittling others, particularly those like her, who he deemed unworthy of respect. "Hey, new girl," Jeff called out, stopping a mere few feet away, a smirk plastered on his face. His voice was loud enough to draw the attention of a few nearby employees, who turned to watch the spectacle unfold. "You missed a spot," he pointed out, indicating an area of the floor that was already spotless. Samantha felt the heat rise to her cheeks but forced a polite smile. "I'll take care of it," she replied, continuing her sweeping, trying to ignore the laughter that erupted from a couple of passing managers. But Jeff wasn't finished. He stepped closer, invading her personal space, and lowered his voice conspiratorially. "You should be grateful for a job like this. You know, some people would kill to work in a place like Technova. Don't screw it up." His tone dripped with condescension. Inside, Samantha simmered with fury. Grateful? For what? The chance to be treated like dirt by someone who had no idea who she truly was? She nodded, maintaining her composure. "Thank you for the advice," she managed, her voice steady despite the anger boiling beneath the surface. Days turned into weeks, and Samantha's frustration grew alongside her determination. Each encounter with Jeff chipped away at her patience, revealing the toxic culture that festered within the company's walls. She witnessed firsthand the contempt he showed not just to her, but to junior employees, interns, and even some of the middle management. No one was safe from his sharp tongue and entitled demeanor. One evening, while emptying the trash in the break room, she overheard a conversation between two marketing associates, their voices low but laced with worry. "If Jeff keeps treating people this way, we're going to lose our best talent," one said. The other replied, "But who can stand up to him? He's untouchable." Samantha's heart raced. It was time to gather more evidence, to assess the entire leadership team, and identify who stood in solidarity with her. For now, she needed to play her part, to remain invisible while she formulated a plan. Her brother, Alex Dawson, had checked in on her several times since she started, sensing her growing unrest. Each time, she assured him that she was fine, but inside, the pressure mounted. She was determined to reveal the truth, to expose the arrogant leader who thought he could mistreat her without consequences. But she needed to bide her time, to learn as much as she could before the moment came when Jeff would find out that the woman he belittled was the very owner of the company he thought he controlled. With every sweeping motion, every trash bag she emptied, she collected the pieces of her plan. As the day ended and the fluorescent lights flickered to life in the dimming office, Samantha took a deep breath. Tomorrow, she would continue her act. Tomorrow, she would become the unseen force that would shake the foundation of Teknova. And when the time was right, she would finally reveal herself, not just as a cleaner but as the woman who had built this empire from the ground up. With that resolve, she finished her tasks and pushed her cart toward the exit, ready to face another day in a world where she was both invisible and unstoppable. The following morning, the city awoke to a brisk autumn breeze, leaves swirling like confetti in the streets of New York. As Samantha Walker prepared for another day at Teknova, she felt a renewed sense of purpose coursing through her veins. She wasn't just going to observe anymore. Today marked the beginning of her undercover operations. Dressed in her standard blue uniform, she entered the building with her head held high, a mask of composure shielding the storm of determination brewing inside her. The usual chorus of busy footsteps and ringing phones enveloped her, a reminder of the world that seemed so detached from her reality. Yet beneath that facade of normalcy lay the undercurrents of arrogance and entitlement that she was determined to expose. Samantha began her day in the sprawling break room, a hub of gossip and camaraderie among employees. As she tidied up the coffee station, she listened intently to the conversations swirling around her. Most employees were unaware of her true identity, but they were all too aware of Jeff Lawson's tyrannical reign. Whispers of frustration filled the air, echoing the fears she had sensed during her first few weeks. "Did you hear about the layoffs?" one intern asked, her voice trembling slightly. "Yeah, and guess who's making the decisions? Jeff's cutting costs again, but not his own bonus." Another employee scoffed. Samantha's heart sank. Jeff's greed was more destructive than she had realized, and it was clear he didn't care who got hurt in the process. She quickly finished cleaning, pretending to focus on her tasks while her mind raced with thoughts of how to gather more information. Throughout the day, she maneuvered through the office, blending in seamlessly as the invisible worker. Each sweep of the floor brought her closer to the heart of the company. She noticed the management team huddled in their glass-walled office, their expressions serious as they discussed budgets and profits. She eavesdropped discreetly while dusting the furniture nearby, her ears tuned to their every word. "We need to cut salaries and boost the stock price. Jeff's looking out for his interests, not ours," a voice from the finance department said. Samantha's stomach churned. This wasn't just about disrespect. It was about the livelihoods at stake. Jeff's ambition was a double-edged sword, and it cut deep into the fabric of Teknova. Determined to gather as much evidence as she could, she formulated a plan to document the management's actions. That evening, she returned home and pored over her notes, sketching a rough outline of her findings. Each incident of harassment, each unfair decision made under Jeff's authority was carefully detailed. She could almost hear her brother Alex's voice in her mind, reminding her of the importance of patience and precision. Samantha decided it was time to dig deeper. The following week, she arranged to meet with a few trusted employees under the guise of cleaning out the break room. She discreetly set up a small meeting in the quieter corner of the room, where she could engage in conversations without raising suspicion. "Listen, I need to know what's happening behind the scenes," she said, her voice steady but urgent as she gathered a group of her coworkers. "I've heard rumors about Jeff's decisions, and I want to know how they're affecting you." A nervous glance passed between them before one brave soul spoke up, a young woman from marketing named Lily. "He's cutting corners everywhere. We're expected to deliver results without the resources we need. And if we complain, we're seen as troublemakers." Samantha nodded, her heart racing with empathy and anger. "What about the way he treats you? Does anyone stand up to him?" The group exchanged uneasy looks. "No one wants to lose their job," another employee admitted. "But we can't keep working like this. It's toxic." That night, Samantha stayed up late, typing furiously on her laptop. She began drafting a detailed report, using her coworkers' testimonies to paint a clearer picture of Jeff's misconduct. She wanted to ensure that when she confronted him, It wouldn't just be her word against his. As the days turned into weeks, Samantha's confidence grew. Each encounter with Jeff and his management team reinforced her resolve. She observed their daily interactions, noting how they dismissed concerns and belittled employees, treating them as disposable assets rather than valued team members. One afternoon, as she mopped the floor near the break room, she overheard Jeff and a few executives laughing raucously. "Can you believe how easy it is to manipulate them?" Jeff said, his voice dripping with contempt. "They're all too scared to speak up. I have them right where I want them." Samantha clenched her fists, her heart racing with fury. This was not just about her anymore. It was about everyone he had bullied and belittled. The time had come to turn the tide. Armed with the testimonies and evidence she had gathered, Samantha knew she was ready. She would no longer remain in the shadows, and she would confront Jeff on her terms. As she prepared for the confrontation, a sense of calm washed over her. She had the truth on her side, and she was ready to reclaim her power. With each passing day, Samantha Walker transformed from the invisible cleaner to a formidable force within Teknova. She wasn't just a worker, she was the rightful owner. And the time for her revenge was fast approaching. The atmosphere inside Teknova had shifted. There was an undercurrent of tension that hummed through the air, as if the building itself could sense the impending confrontation. Samantha Walker, now well-versed in the intricacies of the company, felt the weight of her dual identity pressing down on her. By day, she was still the cleaner and overlooked cog in the machine, but by night, she was the unseen hand guiding the gears of justice. It was a Thursday morning when the tipping point finally arrived. Samantha had spent the last few days meticulously gathering evidence of Jeff Lawson's misconduct. Her report had grown thicker with each passing day, filled with first-hand accounts from her colleagues and her own observations. She felt a surge of determination as she prepared for what would be a pivotal moment in her quest for justice. As the clock struck noon, she pushed her cart into the break room, where employees gathered for their lunch. The aroma of coffee filled the air, mingling with the chatter and laughter of those who were still unaware of the turmoil lurking just beneath the surface. Samantha felt a knot tighten in her stomach as she spotted Jeff at the far end of the room, surrounded by his usual entourage of sycophants, laughing at some joke that only they seemed to find funny. "Look at her, thinking she's important." One of them snickered, pointing in her direction. Samantha's heart raced at the sound of their laughter, but she kept her head down, focusing on her task. Each sweep of the floor felt like a step closer to her goal, a reminder that she had the power to change this narrative. As she cleaned, she caught snippets of their conversation. Jeff's voice rang out, loud and condescending. "I don't know how much longer we can keep these underperformers on the payroll. It's time for a shakeup. They need to understand who's in charge around here." His words dripped with arrogance, and Samantha felt a fire ignite within her. After finishing her duties, Samantha retreated to a quiet corner of the building, her mind racing with the implications of Jeff's words. He was planning something that would hurt her colleagues, and she couldn't let that happen. It was time to confront him, but she needed the right moment. That evening, as the office began to empty, she saw her chance. Jeff was still in his office, the door slightly ajar, his laughter echoing through the hallway. Gathering her courage, Samantha straightened her back, took a deep breath, and strode toward him. She could hear her heart pounding in her ears, but she pressed on, determination fueling her every step. "Mr. Lawson, can I have a word?" she called out, surprising herself with the steadiness of her voice. Jeff looked up, a mix of confusion and amusement crossing his face. "The cleaner wants to talk to me? This ought to be good," he scoffed, motioning for her to enter. Samantha stepped inside, shutting the door behind her with a firm click. The air grew thick with tension as Jeff leaned back in his chair, an arrogant grin plastered on his face. "What's on your mind? Don't tell me you're here to ask for a raise." "Actually, I'm here to discuss your behavior towards the staff," Samantha said, her voice unwavering. Your treatment of the employees is unacceptable. Jeff's grin faltered, replaced by a glare that could cut glass. And you think you're in a position to lecture me? You're just a cleaner. Samantha. No, she replied, her heart racing. I'm not just a cleaner. I'm the owner of this company. Silence fell between them, thick and suffocating. Jeff blinked, processing her words. Disbelief etched across his features. What are you talking about? The owner? You're joking. No joke, Samantha said, standing tall. I've been watching you, Jeff. I've seen how you belittle the employees and manipulate the situation to your advantage. You may have the title, but I built this company, and I won't let you destroy it. Jeff's expression twisted with rage and disbelief. You think you can just walk in here and threaten me? I'll ruin you. You have no idea who you're dealing with. Samantha felt a rush of adrenaline course through her veins. I know exactly who I'm dealing with. A bully who thinks he can intimidate everyone around him. But I have the proof to back my words. Jeff, I know about your misuse of funds, your harassment of staff, and your plans to cut jobs to line your own pockets. His face flushed with anger. You're bluffing. You think anyone will believe you over me? I have connections. Connections that won't save you when the board sees my evidence. Samantha cut in, her voice firm. I'm giving you one chance to change. You can resign and walk away quietly, or I'll expose you and everything you've done. The choice is yours. For a moment, it seemed as if the air had left the room. Jeff leaned forward, his fists clenching. You think you can scare me? I won't go down without a fight. You have no idea what I'm capable of. Samantha held his gaze, unyielding. And you have no idea who you're messing with. I built this company from the ground up, and I will protect it with everything I have. You may have thought I was invisible, but now I'm standing right in front of you, and I won't back down. With that, she turned on her heel and strode toward the door, her heart racing with a mixture of fear and exhilaration. As she stepped out into the hallway, she could hear Jeff's angry shout behind her, a desperate attempt to regain control. Get back here. You think this is over? He roared. But Samantha didn't look back. She had taken her first step in reclaiming her power, and the battle was only just beginning. As she walked away, she felt a renewed sense of purpose wash over her. She was no longer just a cleaner. She was the force that would challenge the status quo. The power play had begun, and Samantha was determined to win. The sun dipped low over the city skyline, casting long shadows across the streets as Samantha Walker sat in her small apartment, staring at her laptop screen. The glow of the monitor illuminated her face, revealing the intensity of her focus. She had spent the last few hours compiling every piece of evidence she had gathered against Jeff Lawson, preparing for the confrontation that she knew was inevitable. But with every document she reviewed, her resolve wavered, fear creeping into her thoughts. This was not just about exposing Jeff. It was about protecting her company, her employees, and her own legacy. The weight of her responsibility felt heavier than ever, and she couldn't shake the nagging feeling that she was standing on the precipice of something monumental. Just then, her phone buzzed on the table, pulling her from her thoughts. It was a text from her brother. Alex, how's it going? Have you spoken to Jeff yet? Samantha sighed, running a hand through her hair. Not yet. I'm gathering more evidence. I'll talk to him soon. She paused, contemplating her next words before typing again. I'm scared. Alex, what if he retaliates? The reply was immediate. He's a bully. Sam, you have to stand up to him. You've worked too hard to let him intimidate you. Just remember, you're not alone in this. His words offered a glimmer of reassurance, but the fear still gnawed at her. It wasn't just Jeff she had to worry about. It was the entire culture he had fostered within Teknova. If she exposed him, would others stand with her or would they cower in fear, just as they had been doing for years? The next day, as she made her way to the office, Samantha felt a sense of dread coil in her stomach. She had decided to confront Jeff head-on, but with each step, the fear of his retaliation loomed larger in her mind. Would he threaten her job? Would he spread lies about her to discredit her? Arriving at Technova, she took a moment to compose herself in the restroom, splashing cold water on her face. She needed to channel her anxiety into strength. Today, she would reclaim her power. As she pushed her cleaning cart through the office, she noticed the hushed conversations among her coworkers. Whispers of concern floated around her like a shroud, and she could sense the tension in the air. Jeff's presence loomed large, his tyranny casting a shadow over the entire company. "Did you hear about the layoffs?" a voice murmured nearby. Samantha's heart sank. If Jeff was already making moves to cut employees, she couldn't afford to wait any longer. The time for action was now. Summoning her courage, she headed toward Jeff's office. The closer she got, the more the adrenaline surged through her veins. She knocked firmly on the door, pushing it open without waiting for a response. Jeff sat at his desk, his expression shifting from surprise to annoyance. "What do you want?" he snapped, leaning back in his chair with an air of disdain. "I need to talk to you," Samantha said, her voice steady despite the tremor in her hands. "It's about your treatment of the staff." He rolled his eyes, leaning forward with a condescending smirk. "Oh, here we go. The cleaner thinks she's the moral compass of Technova. What's it going to be this time? Another lecture on respect. Enough with the games. Jeff, I know about the layoffs you're planning, and I won't let you ruin people's lives for your own gain." His demeanor shifted, a flicker of anger sparking in his eyes. "You're overstepping your bounds. Samantha, you have no authority here. You're just a cleaner. And you're just a bully hiding behind your title. I've been gathering evidence of your misconduct, and I'm not afraid to take it to the board. You're making decisions that will hurt this company and its employees, and I won't let that happen." Jeff's expression darkened, his facade of confidence slipping. "You really think you can intimidate me? You're playing a dangerous game." "I'm not playing. I'm fighting for what's right. I have the support of the staff, and I won't stand by while you destroy everything I built." For a moment, silence hung between them, thick with tension. Jeff's arrogance faltered, replaced by a cold fury. "You're making a huge mistake. You think they'll back you? They'll throw you under the bus the moment things get tough." But Samantha stood her ground, her heart pounding fiercely in her chest. "No, Jeff, you're the one making a mistake. This company deserves better than your leadership. It's time for change, and I'm going to be the one to lead it." With that declaration hanging in the air, she turned on her heel and walked out of his office, her heart racing with a mix of exhilaration and fear. As she navigated the halls, she could feel the weight of Jeff's gaze burning into her back. Whispers followed her as she passed her colleagues, and for the first time, she sensed a shift in the atmosphere. People were watching, their expressions a mixture of curiosity and admiration. Perhaps they were starting to see her not just as a cleaner, but as a champion for change. Later that day, Samantha gathered a small group of employees in the break room. They shared their frustrations and fears, and with each voice that joined the chorus, Samantha felt a surge of strength. Together, they began to form a plan, a collective response to Jeff's tyranny. They would not let him divide them any longer. As they discussed strategies, her phone buzzed again. It was Alex. "How did it go?" Samantha glanced around at her coworkers, who were passionately brainstorming ideas. "I stood up to him. Felt good. But I know he'll retaliate. We need to prepare. You've got this, Sam. Remember, you're not alone. You have people behind you." The determination in her heart swelled, igniting a fierce resolve. She was no longer fighting just for herself. She was fighting for everyone who had been silenced by fear. The breaking point had come, and now, together, they would reshape the future of Technova. The battle lines had been drawn, and Samantha was ready to lead the charge. The next morning, Samantha Walker stood before her mirror, adjusting her crisp white blazer and smoothing her hair. Today was not just another day at Technova. It was the day she would unveil her true identity. Her heart raced with anticipation and anxiety. each beat echoing her determination. She had decided that the time for games was over. Jeff Lawson would no longer have the upper hand. As she arrived at the office, she felt a surge of empowerment. Her colleagues greeted her with cautious glances, their expressions a mix of curiosity and support. Today, they would witness a transformation, not just of her appearance but of the entire company. Samantha made her way to the boardroom, her cleaning cart left behind in the break room for the last time. The conference room was alive with chatter. The upper management assembled for their weekly meeting, unaware of the storm that was about to hit. Taking a deep breath, she pushed the door open and stepped inside. The murmurs faded into stunned silence as heads turned to face her. Jeff, seated at the head of the table, raised an eyebrow, his expression one of confusion mixed with amusement. "Can I help you with something, Samantha?" he asked, a hint of mockery in his tone. "I'm here to address the board," she stated, her voice steady and unwavering. "I have an important announcement to make." Laughter erupted from a few executives, their arrogance palpable. "What could a cleaner possibly have to say that's worth our time?" one of them scoffed. Ignoring the derision, Samantha strode confidently to the head of the table, where her brother Alex sat with a supportive nod. She stood beside him, her presence commanding the room's attention. "I'm not just a cleaner," she began, her voice rising above the murmurs. "I'm the owner of Technova." The room fell silent, the air thick with disbelief. Jeff's smirk faded as he exchanged bewildered glances with his colleagues. "What are you talking about?" he stammered, clearly struggling to process the revelation. Samantha continued, her heart pounding but her resolve unshakable. "I've been working undercover in this company to see how it operates, and what I've found is unacceptable. I've watched you belittle employees, misuse funds, and destroy morale with your tyrannical behavior." As she spoke, she could feel the weight of their eyes upon her, some filled with shock, others with a flicker of hope. "Today, I'm here to reclaim my company and to put an end to your reign of arrogance." Jeff regained some composure, leaning forward in his chair, his expression shifting to anger. "You can't just walk in here and make these claims. You're lying. I will make sure everyone knows you're just a delusional cleaner who's trying to make a name for herself." But Samantha held her ground. "You're wrong, Jeff. I've documented everything. I have proof of your harassment, your inappropriate comments, and your plans to lay off hardworking employees without justification." The tension in the room escalated, and she could see a few board members shifting uncomfortably. She took a step closer, locking eyes with Jeff. "You've treated my employees like they're beneath you, and that stops now." The board members began to whisper among themselves, their expressions revealing a mix of disbelief and dawning realization. Samantha reached into her briefcase, pulling out a stack of documents and laying them on the table for all to see. "Here are testimonials from employees detailing your misconduct, along with financial records that highlight your mismanagement. This is only the beginning." Jeff's face flushed with anger and fear as he realized the gravity of her words. "You're making a huge mistake, Samantha. You think they'll believe you over me? I've built my career here." Samantha felt a wave of determination wash over her. "You may have built a facade of success, but your actions have been nothing but destructive. The people in this room deserve to work in an environment free from fear and intimidation. And I'm going to ensure that happens." One of the board members, an older gentleman with graying hair, finally spoke up. "I've seen the changes in morale since Jeff took over. If what you're saying is true, then this company needs a reckoning." Samantha turned to the others, urging them to join the conversation. "You all have a choice to make. We can either continue down this path of toxicity or we can create a new culture rooted in respect and accountability. I want to bring in new leadership, people who care about the employees and the mission of Technova." The tension in the room thickened as the reality of the situation began to sink in. Jeff, desperate to regain control, shot back. "You think you can just waltz in here and take over? I have connections. I'll make sure you're discredited." But Samantha's confidence surged. "You've underestimated me for far too long, Jeff. I'm not afraid of your threats. This isn't just about me. It's about everyone who has suffered under your leadership, and they're ready for change." As she spoke, she could see the flicker of hope in her colleagues' eyes transforming into determination. They were ready to stand with her against the oppressive regime that Jeff had built. The tide was turning, and Samantha could feel the momentum shifting in her favor. "I propose a vote of no confidence in Jeff Lawson as COO," she declared, her voice ringing with authority. "It's time for Teknova to reclaim its integrity." The room erupted into chaos, voices rising as board members debated the merits of her proposal. Jeff's face contorted with rage as he realized he was losing control of the narrative. "You can't do this," he shouted. But his words were drowned out by the growing chorus of support for Samantha. As the discussions continued, Samantha felt a surge of empowerment. She had stood up to Jeff and had taken her place at the table, not just as an employee but as the rightful owner of Teknova. Today was a turning point, not just for her but for everyone who had suffered in silence. Finally, the room quieted, and the older board member who had first spoken raised his hand. "Let's take a vote. We need to hear what the employees want and whether they're ready to support a new direction for this company." Samantha felt a thrill of anticipation course through her as the board members began to deliberate. This was it, the moment she had been waiting for. She had taken the first step in a long battle, and she was ready to fight for her company, her employees, and her legacy. With her heart racing, she stood firm, knowing that whatever the outcome, she had already won the most important battle of all. The battle for her voice and her place in the company she had built from the ground up. Today marked the beginning of a new era at Teknova, one that would be defined by resilience, respect, and integrity. The boardroom was thick with tension, the air electric as Samantha stood at the head of the table, her heart pounding in rhythm with the ticking clock on the wall. She could feel the weight of the moment pressing down on her as the board members whispered among themselves, debating the fate of Jeff Lawson and the future of Teknova. As the discussions intensified, Jeff's expression shifted from anger to desperation. He leaned back in his chair, his arms crossed tightly over his chest, trying to project an air of confidence that was quickly unraveling. "You're making a grave mistake," he repeated, his voice tinged with desperation. "You think these employees will back you? They're loyal to me." Samantha, feeling the eyes of her colleagues upon her, stepped forward, refusing to let his intimidation tactics shake her resolve. "Loyalty should be earned, Jeff. It's clear you've fostered a culture of fear, not respect. The employees are tired of being bullied and manipulated by someone who sees them as nothing more than disposable resources." A murmur of agreement rippled through the room, and she could see some board members nodding, their expressions shifting from disbelief to support. This was it, the turning point she had been waiting for. "Let's take a vote." The older board member, Mr. Thompson, said, his voice steady. "We need to decide whether to support Samantha's proposal for a vote of no confidence in Jeff Lawson as COO. We owe it to the employees to act on this." Jeff's eyes narrowed as he scanned the room, searching for allies among the board members. "You're all fools if you think you can let this cleaner take over the company," he spat, venom lacing his words. "I'll have your heads for this betrayal." Samantha held her breath as the board members deliberated, their voices rising in a cacophony of opinions and emotions. She could sense the shift. Fear was giving way to courage, and the momentum was on her side. "Enough!" Mr. Thompson shouted, silencing the room with his authority. "We will not let intimidation dictate our decisions. This is a company built on innovation and integrity, and it's time we hold ourselves accountable. Those who want to support Samantha, raise your hands." Slowly, hesitant hands began to rise, one by one, until a significant majority of the board had declared their support for her proposal. Samantha's heart soared. She felt the tide turning, the power shifting away from Jeff and into her hands. "No!" Jeff shouted, his face twisted in disbelief. "You can't do this. I'm the one who built this company. I'm the one who makes the hard decisions. And those decisions have led to a toxic environment. Samantha countered, her voice strong and unwavering. You've let your arrogance blind you to the needs of this company and its people. Today, that ends. Mr. Thompson nodded, turning to Jeff. Jeff, we're voting on your position. It's time for you to face the consequences of your actions. Jeff's face darkened, and in that moment, Samantha saw a flicker of vulnerability. A brief glimpse of the man who had tried to exert power through fear but was now backed into a corner. You'll regret this, he warned, his voice low and menacing. You don't know what you're getting into. Samantha squared her shoulders, refusing to back down. No, Jeff, it's you who doesn't know what you're up against. This is a fight for respect and integrity. And I'm not afraid to take you on. The vote commenced, each board member casting their vote with a sense of purpose. Samantha held her breath as she watched the hands being raised. One by one, the results were counted. And when Mr. Thompson finally announced the outcome, felt like time stood still. With a majority vote, we have decided to remove Jeff Lawson from his position as COO. He declared, his voice booming across the room. A stunned silence followed, and then a wave of murmurs erupted as the reality of the decision set in. Samantha felt a rush of triumph mixed with disbelief. She had done it. She had stood up to a bully and emerged victorious. Jeff's face turned an ashen shade, disbelief etched in every line of his expression. You can't do this to me. I'll sue. I'll destroy all of you. His voice was laced with panic as he scrambled to regain control. Samantha remained calm, her heart racing with exhilaration. You brought this upon yourself, Jeff. The board has spoken, and your reign of terror ends today. You've failed to lead this company with respect. And now it's time for someone who understands its true values to take charge. As security arrived to escort Jeff out of the building, he turned to the board members, desperation in his eyes. You'll all regret this. You'll see what happens without me. Samantha stood tall, watching as the man who had tormented her and so many others was led away. She felt a mix of satisfaction and sadness. This was a moment of victory, but it was also a reflection of the battles she had fought to reach this point. Once the door closed behind Jeff, the room erupted in applause. Colleagues she had worked alongside, some of whom had never acknowledged her before, now surrounded her, their faces filled with gratitude and admiration. You did it, Samantha, one of the marketing associates exclaimed. You stood up to him. Samantha smiled, overwhelmed by the support. We did it together. This isn't just my victory. It's a victory for everyone who has felt silenced. With the immediate threat of Jeff gone, the energy in the room shifted. The employees began to discuss what changes they wanted to see, and Samantha felt a surge of hope for the future of Teknova. This was just the beginning. Mr. Thompson approached her, his expression serious yet warm. You've shown incredible courage today, Samantha. I believe you're the right person to lead this company into a new era. Samantha's heart swelled with pride. I want to create a culture of respect and innovation, where every voice is heard. We can't just remove Jeff and expect things to change. We need to rebuild together. With the board's support, they began to lay the groundwork for a new leadership structure, one that prioritized collaboration and accountability. As she looked around the room at her colleagues, she felt a sense of unity and purpose that she had never experienced before. Together, they would turn Teknova into a company defined not by fear but by strength, respect, and resilience. Samantha had reclaimed her rightful place, not just as the owner but as a leader who would guide them into a brighter future. As the meeting came to a close, Samantha felt a wave of excitement wash over her. The battle with Jeff Lawson had been won, but the real work was just beginning. Together, they would rebuild, stronger than ever. And in that moment, she knew that she had finally found her voice, her purpose, and her family within the walls of Teknova. The air in the Teknova offices buzzed with a new energy as Samantha Walker stepped into her role as CEO. The morning sun streamed through the large glass windows, illuminating the faces of her colleagues, who now looked to her with a mix of hope and determination. The oppressive atmosphere that had once permeated the halls was gradually lifting, replaced by a palpable sense of possibility. Samantha stood at the front of the boardroom, flanked by her loyal allies, Alex and a handful of board members who had supported her from the beginning. She glanced around the room, her heart swelling with pride. "Today marks a new chapter for Teknova," she announced, her voice strong and clear. "We are committed to fostering a culture of respect, innovation, and integrity." Applause erupted in the room, the sound echoing off the walls and filling her with renewed vigor. This was what she had fought for, the chance to lead a team of talented individuals who deserved to be treated with dignity. As the meeting progressed, they discussed immediate changes, implementing open-door policies, regular employee feedback sessions, and the establishment of a diversity and inclusion committee. Samantha wanted every voice to be heard, and she was determined to ensure that the mistakes of the past would not be repeated. However, the taste of victory was still bittersweet. Jeff Lawson had left a toxic legacy behind, and Samantha knew that uprooting it would take time. The scars left on her colleagues were deep, and they needed reassurance that the changes would be more than just words on a page. Later that day, as she moved through the office, Samantha stopped to chat with various employees, listening to their concerns and ideas. She wanted to know what changes they hoped to see. One by one, they opened up, sharing their experiences of intimidation and fear under Jeff's rule. With each story, Samantha felt her resolve strengthen. She would ensure that no one would ever feel powerless again. As the week unfolded, the changes began to take root. Employees were encouraged to voice their opinions, and the atmosphere shifted from one of fear to one of collaboration. Samantha hosted informal gatherings in the break room, inviting everyone to share their thoughts on the new direction of the company. Laughter filled the space as they shared ideas and built relationships, the camaraderie palpable. But just as things began to settle, the repercussions of Jeff's actions loomed large. On a Friday afternoon, Samantha received an unexpected visit from a group of disgruntled employees, those who had been directly impacted by Jeff's previous decisions. They had been pushed out of their roles or sidelined during his tenure, and now they were seeking justice. Samantha gathered them in a conference room, her heart heavy with the weight of their grievances. "I want to hear your stories," she said, her voice sincere. "This is your chance to speak up, and I promise you, I'm listening." One by one, they shared their experiences, detailing how Jeff had manipulated the system to advance his interests at the expense of their careers. As the stories poured out, Samantha felt a mix of anger and empathy. This was the ugly truth she had known existed but had not fully comprehended until now. After the meeting, she sat down with Alex, discussing the gravity of what she had heard. "We need to take action," Samantha said, her determination renewed. "We have to address these grievances head-on and show our commitment to change. They deserve accountability for what they endured." Alex nodded, supportive as always. "I think we should hold a meeting with the board and discuss how to proceed. It's important that we acknowledge the pain caused by Jeff's leadership and make amends." Samantha agreed, and they quickly organized a board meeting to address the employees' concerns. When they presented the findings, it was met with a mixture of shock and outrage from the board members. "We cannot allow this to stand," Mr. Thompson said firmly. "We need to provide these employees with the support they deserve." Together, they devised a plan to rehire those who had been unjustly let go and to offer compensation to those affected by Jeff's decisions. They established a task force dedicated to ensuring fair treatment for all employees moving forward, a clear signal that Teknova was committed to its values. The following week, they held a company-wide meeting to announce the changes. As Samantha stood before her colleagues, she felt a swell of emotion. "We are taking steps to right the wrongs of the past," she began, her voice steady. "Teknova is a place where every employee deserves respect, and we are committed to rebuilding the trust that was broken." The response was overwhelming. Applause filled the room as employees expressed their appreciation. But Samantha knew that words were only part of the equation. It was time to put action behind her promises. As they implemented the new initiatives, the company began to heal. Employees who had once felt marginalized found their voices again, contributing to projects with renewed enthusiasm. Samantha fostered an environment where innovation thrived, and ideas flowed freely. However, amidst the positive changes, the shadow of Jeff's departure still lingered. She received word that he had begun to circulate rumors about her leadership, attempting to undermine her authority and sway public opinion against her. Samantha knew he would not go quietly. In response, she called a meeting with the board, addressing the situation head-on. "We cannot allow his actions to derail the progress we've made. I want to be transparent about what's happening, and I need your support in countering these rumors." The board members rallied behind her. Pledging their loyalty, they strategized a plan to combat Jeff's attacks, utilizing their network to spread the truth about the positive changes at Teknova. Samantha also decided to leverage social media, sharing the company's progress and the stories of employees who had benefited from the new initiatives. As the days turned into weeks, the tide began to turn. Employees came forward to share their success stories, highlighting how the new policies had transformed their experiences at work. The support for Samantha grew, and the rumors began to fade. But as she celebrated these victories, Samantha remained vigilant. She knew that change was a process, not a destination, and she was committed to ensuring Teknova remained a place of integrity and respect. Karma had indeed dealt its hand. Jeff had underestimated the resilience of the people he had wronged. And now, as Samantha looked around at her thriving workplace, she knew they were all stronger for it. Together, they would continue to build a future where every employee felt valued, respected, and empowered. As she wrapped up another productive week, Samantha felt a deep sense of satisfaction. She had not only reclaimed her company, she had transformed it. The journey was far from over, but the path ahead was filled with promise, and she was ready to embrace whatever challenges lay ahead. The sun rose over Teknova, bathing the sleek offices in a golden glow that seemed to promise a bright future. Samantha Walker stood by the window of her new corner office, a space that had once belonged to Jeff Lawson. The view was breathtaking, but it wasn't the skyline that captivated her. It was the bustling activity below, the hum of creativity and collaboration that now permeated the company she had fought so hard to reclaim. It had been a month since the board voted to remove Jeff, and the changes she had implemented were already taking root. The atmosphere within the office had transformed dramatically. Gone were the whispers of fear and resentment. Instead, laughter and teamwork filled the air. Samantha felt a surge of pride as she reflected on the progress they had made together. Today marked the official launch of Teknova's new initiative, Voices of Innovation. This program was designed to empower employees to contribute their ideas directly to the leadership team, breaking down barriers and fostering a culture of open communication. Samantha believed that every employee deserved a voice, and this initiative was the embodiment of that belief. As she prepared for the launch, her phone buzzed with a reminder. She glanced at the message. "Don't forget about the kickoff meeting at 10 a.m. The whole team is excited." Samantha smiled, a warm feeling spreading through her. She knew that the success of Teknova relied on its people, and she was eager to showcase their contributions. This was about more than just business. It was about creating a community that thrived on respect and innovation. Entering the main conference room, Samantha was greeted by an enthusiastic crowd of employees. The room was buzzing with energy, filled with vibrant conversations and a palpable sense of anticipation. She took a moment to soak it all in, feeling the weight of her journey culminating in this very moment. "Welcome, everyone," she called out, raising her hands to quiet the chatter. The room gradually fell silent, eyes turning toward her with a mix of admiration and curiosity. Today marks a new beginning for Teknova. We are here to celebrate not only our achievements, but also the incredible talent and creativity that each of you brings to this company." Applause erupted, and Samantha beamed at her colleagues. "This initiative, Voices of Innovation, is about you, about listening to your ideas, your dreams, and your aspirations for Teknova. We want to empower you to shape the future of our company together." As she spoke, Samantha felt a wave of excitement wash over her. This was her vision coming to life, a testament to the hard work and resilience of everyone who had stood by her side. "We've created a platform where you can submit your ideas, no matter how big or small. We'll review them, provide feedback, and the best ideas will be implemented into our projects moving forward. This is your opportunity to make your voice heard." The crowd erupted in cheers, and Samantha could see the spark of inspiration igniting within them. They were ready to take ownership of their work and contribute to a culture that valued their input. After the kickoff meeting, employees began mingling, sharing their ideas and aspirations. Samantha moved through the crowd, engaging with her colleagues, encouraging them to share their thoughts. She felt invigorated by their enthusiasm, knowing that the future of Teknova was bright. But as the day unfolded, a familiar face emerged from the crowd: Lily, the marketing associate who had been instrumental in supporting Samantha during her rise. "I've been thinking about a project that could really elevate our marketing strategy," Lily said, her eyes sparkling with excitement. "Tell me more," Samantha urged, her curiosity piqued. Lily launched into her idea, describing a campaign that would showcase Teknova's commitment to innovation while highlighting employee stories. "We can create a series of videos that spotlight individual contributions to the company, showcasing the talent and creativity within our team. It'll not only boost morale but also enhance our brand's reputation." Samantha listened intently, nodding along as Lily elaborated. "That sounds fantastic. Let's set up a meeting to flesh out the details. I want this to be a collaborative effort, with input from everyone involved." As they continued discussing the campaign, Samantha felt a sense of fulfillment wash over her. This was what she had envisioned: collaboration, creativity, and a sense of belonging. She knew that this was just the beginning. Teknova was poised for greatness. That evening, as Samantha wrapped up her day, she received a text from Alex. "Proud of you, sis. Teknova is lucky to have you at the helm. Can't wait to see where this goes." Her heart swelled with gratitude. "Thank you, Alex. I couldn't have done it without your support," she replied, knowing that her brother had always believed in her. As she prepared to leave the office, Samantha took one last look at the vibrant workplace around her. The laughter and chatter filled the air, a symphony of creativity that resonated deeply within her. She had fought against the odds to create a space where everyone felt valued, and now, that vision was becoming a reality. Stepping out into the cool evening air, she felt a renewed sense of purpose. The road ahead would not be without its challenges, but she was ready to face whatever came her way. Teknova was more than just a company. It was a community, one that she was proud to lead. As she walked down the bustling streets of New York, Samantha smiled, knowing that they were building something special together. This was not just her journey. It was a collective effort, and together, they would forge a future filled with innovation, respect, and endless possibilities. The sun dipped below the horizon, casting a warm glow over the city, a perfect metaphor for the dawn of a new era at Teknova. And as Samantha continued down the path she had paved, she felt an overwhelming sense of hope. The story of Teknova was just beginning, and she was ready to embrace every moment of it.